Hello YouTube, hello! So Mr. John Harris here has a great video on why Putin will lose. As you guys know, John Harris is probably one of the best channels on YouTube. He's got amazing videos, 10 out of 10 edited videos. Where he gets his sources, I don't know from. The content itself, well, I'll let you be the judge of that. Definitely 10 out of 10 videos. So let's see what he says.
Why are you doing this? Why are you fighting this needless war? This war of conquest that will topple so many lives. Most of those troops crossed the border last week.
Holy crap, guys, these are the troops. In case you didn't realize, these are the troops crossing the border. YouTube, if you're watching this, which you're probably not, but if you're watching this, I'm not an idiot, I promise, trust me.
Hours after this invasion started in the middle of the night on Thursday morning, Ukraine's President Zelensky appeared on TV. This step is likely the beginning of a massive war on the European continent. This is a war unlike any war the world has ever seen.
Why? Why is it a war unlike any other war the world has ever seen, John? He keeps repeating what every major media outlet says without actually giving us some actual fucking information. The reason this war is so insane and the reason why this is unlike anything else we've seen is because Russia's a nuclearly armed nation and nobody's fucking saying that. And if we do take steps against Russia, we're all fucked. That's why.
It looks like a war from like 1830, but it's happening in 2022.
Look at this. Looks like a war from 1830. Motherfucker, where's the fucking logic in this, man? There's so many wars he could have just referenced. Insanely huge amounts of wars he could have referenced. And he references war from 1830. I'm gonna have an aneurysm. I'm gonna die out of an aneurysm.
The Ukrainian government. The US and NATO can't send troops for fear of starting a clash between two nuclear nations. Something we simply do not do. It's a red line that no one crosses.
Yeah, exactly. It's a red line that nobody crosses. The end.
I want to tell you exactly why Vladimir Putin and his army are here.
Tell me exactly why, John. Tell me exactly why.
The story behind this invasion is the story of this one man's worldview, but it's also a story of a bet that he took. A bet that Ukrainians would give up, lay down their arms, and see the world the way he does. But if there's anything I have learned in the past week, it's that even if Putin conquers a big portion of this country, something he has the military hardware to do, even if he does that, he still won't win this war.
No, that's wrong. He will win this war if he does that, Johnny boy. What you're probably trying to say is that even if he does conquer all of that, people are going to be resisting. But the reality is that even if people resist, there's not enough guns in Ukraine to hold on the entirety of Russia without outside support. And outside support's not going to come once the country has been completely taken over because countries are afraid of a nuclear apocalypse.
In fact, I'm here to argue that he's already lost. Vladimir Putin has already lost this war.
No, he has not. The sad reality is that there's no way for Russia to lose this war. If Russia loses this war, it's the end for Putin. He's willing to use nuclear missiles before he's going to lose the war because he knows what would happen if he does lose the war. The best outcome would be diplomatic peace deal in which Russia doesn't come out as the loser. They keep Crimea, Donbass, separatist areas, and then Ukraine also retains its independence. That would be the best outcome. And that's my hopes, the outcome that we're going to see.
What Putin said right before the invasion, and number two, what actually happened once he invaded. I want to show you both. So a few days before the invasion, Putin gets on TV and addresses the nation.
Уважаемые граждане России, дорогие друзья.
It's this unsurprising hour-long history lecture where Putin lays out his grand, intricate argument as to why Ukraine, in fact, isn't a real country.
Итак, начну с того, что современная Украина целиком и полностью была создана Россией.
Instead, Ukraine was created by the authors of the Russian Communist Revolution 100 years ago. And now Ukraine, this invented country that's just an extension of Russia itself, has been hijacked by the US and Europe, who have installed neo-Nazi thugs to run the show. According to his story, the West did this to eventually force Ukraine into their military alliance called NATO, which they will use to defeat Russia. Just like, and seriously he says this, just like Hitler did 80 years ago. But this time, Putin will make sure that Russia is ready for the invasion.
Вы хотите декоммунизации? Ну что же, нас это вполне устраивает. Но не нужно, что называется, останавливаться на полпути. Мы готовы показать вам, что значит для Украины настоящая декоммунизация.
But this warped historical framing of who rightfully owns this land isn't quite enough to justify an invasion, maybe in like 1860 or something, but not today.
What the fuck is up with his obsession with the 1800s? This is not even fucking related to the 1800s. There's so many massively different and more accurate examples he can give from the 1900s or early 2000s. Fucking Russian invasion of Georgia, boyo. What the fuck is he talking about? 1830, 1860, what the hell, man? This guy's got no clue about history. Like, he literally is showing us right now, he's got no idea what he's talking about.
So he makes a big part of his story this idea that Ukraine, this fake country, is being run by American-backed anti-Russian neo-Nazis who are holding the Ukrainian people hostage.
Неудивительно, что украинское общество сталкивалось с ростом крайнего национализма, который быстро приобрел форму агрессивной русофобии и неонацизма.
Okay. It's easy to poke fun at like the delusion of Vladimir Putin, but let's talk about the facts here and what Putin is actually basing this off of, because it really matters for understanding why he went in and why he's gonna lose. First, let's just clear up the fact that Ukraine wasn't invented by Russia. Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, was a thriving city long before Moscow was even on the map.
This guy is literally saying the same crap that people have been saying on the news for the past couple of days. Kiev was the capital of Kievan Rus, the ancestor of both Russians and Ukrainians. You don't tell me the dumb shit that, when Kievan Rus was thriving, Moscow was a forest. Yes, because when Kievan Rus was thriving, there was no Ukrainian, no Russian. They were the same Slavic precursor to both countries. Do all of these media people not know how to pick up a fucking history book? What the actual hell?
Old culture. But what Putin has done is twisted modern history to make a claim that Ukraine actually isn't a legitimate country. And he does this because it's a very key part of his story, one that supports the second major argument, which is that Ukraine is run by neo-Nazis.
Let's put this out there. Ukraine is not run by neo-Nazis. That's just a dumb argument. Let's face it. I mean, okay, don't get me wrong. There are neo-Nazis in the world today, but they're not, as far as I know, in charge of any countries. The whole Nazi thing has been used continuously. It keeps getting repeated every single 5 seconds by every country. When you attack someone, they're Nazis. We're attacking the Nazis. Russia's saying Ukrainians are Nazis. Ukrainians are saying Russians are Nazis. America's been saying everybody that they've been invading for the past fucking 100 years is a Nazi.
Want to exterminate the Russian-speaking population. So let's get the facts here. Within Ukraine, there is indeed a faction of far-right neo-Nazis who have a political party and a militia force. And this militia force has actually joined the Ukrainian army in the past 8 years to fight Russia back from annexing any more territory in the east of the country. You may have remembered that Russia took over a big part of Ukraine called Crimea 8 years ago.
Ukrainian forces have set up a perimeter, but it's clear that we are completely surrounded by Russian forces.
Yeah, these neo-Nazi fighters, sort of nationalist guys, came up as a resistance to that. And yeah, Putin's got one thing right. These are not good people. These are literal neo-Nazi white supremacist soldiers that commit all sorts of atrocities and train children in their ideology. And Putin, I get it, these are bad people, neo-Nazis, we don't like them. But Putin is claiming that these are the people running the country, running Ukraine, when in fact, if you look at the data from the 2019 election in Ukraine, you'll see that the country's ultra-nationalist far-right coalition gained barely over 2% of the vote and 0 seats in the parliament.
I'll give him credit where credit is due. He has a point about this, yeah.
Oh, and there's a more obvious bit of data here, which is that the Ukrainian president is Jewish and has family who died in the Holocaust. And yet there is one thing that Putin is absolutely right about.
Это наши товарищи, близкие, среди которых не только коллеги, друзья, бывшие сослуживцы, но и родственники. Люди, связанные с нами кровными семейными узами.
These two countries are deeply connected through culture and language and history and exchange. A war against Ukrainians would not sit well with the Russian people. And this explains why Putin needs to frame the war in a very certain way. Not an invasion to take over a sovereign nation of Russia's brothers and sisters, but rather a rescue effort to save the Ukrainian people from these aggressive villains who are really controlling the country.
He has a point. So far, he actually has a point with it. I agree. That is exactly why he's framing it like we're attacking Ukraine because there's Nazis in charge of the country. Because if he was just saying we're attacking Ukraine to install our puppet, a lot of Russians would not agree to it because it would make them understand that, you know, if that's what's happening here, we're also kind of puppets and so on.
Okay, I'm about to jump into the maps and look at how the war is actually playing out and help us understand it.
And then he's gonna do a montage of like a minute of going through the maps. I like it. I'm not complaining. I mean, like the dude's 10 out of 10 when it comes to making videos.
I really want us to keep in mind Putin's story because it really will make everything click. So let's just go over it really quickly. Putin's story is really four things. Number one, Ukraine really belongs to Russia. Number two, it has been hijacked by the US and Europe, i.e. the West. Number three, the West is controlling Ukraine with its neo-Nazi puppets, also that the West military alliance called NATO can use Ukraine as a bridge to get to Russia, who they want to defeat. And all of this leads to Putin must invade to free Ukrainians and protect Russia from the West. That is it. That is the justification that Vladimir Putin has been building for years, if not decades.
Повторю, наши действия – это самозащита от создаваемых нам угроз и от еще большей беды, чем та, что происходит сегодня.
Minutes after this second address last week, where he laid out all of his justifications, in the middle of the night, the rockets start flying. Russia comes in from all sides, quickly taking over mostly rural areas, but slowly moving towards the major cities.
So far, it's 13 minutes into this video. He hasn't said a single thing except what people have been saying throughout the media. He's literally just reading back what other major media outlets have said in the past few days.
And Putin can still conquer a lot of land. He can take over major cities, install a puppet government, and be the new ruler of Ukraine. He has the military to do it, and he seems to have the tolerance for bloodshed. He seems to believe in his fantasy story so much that he's gonna keep up this crusade. But I'm here to tell you that Putin has already lost this war.
Finally, after 18 minutes, he actually is gonna tell us why Putin's losing the war. Let's see, guys. Let's see this historical analyst in the making give us the reasons.
I mean, let's play this out so I can show you what I mean. Let's say Putin keeps going. He keeps sending troops in and missiles despite all of this resistance. He could
I honestly just love the map. Like he did a great job with this. It reminds me of Plague Inc. Like, you know, the bacteria when they start taking over stuff, areas of the world.
Eventually take over the major population centers, including the capital Kiev. All of this with the same goal that he's had the whole time, which is getting the Ukrainians to give up and realize that Russia is actually the country they want to align with. He's also kind of hoping that maybe the Ukrainian military will come to their senses and take over the government and negotiate with Putin. But let's say they never do, they probably won't. Instead, they keep doing what they've been doing for the last week, resisting, defending, condemning, and broadcasting all of it to the world on the internet. So Putin has no choice but to drive the government out and install a pro-Russian regime. In order to do this, he's going to need a massive military presence to keep control of these cities and their people. It's now costing him tens of billions of dollars and crippling his economy. So you have a map that maybe looks something like this, which gives plenty of space for Ukrainians to gather and mount their resistance, giving Russia hell for an indefinite period of time.
His argument, this guy's argument, is that Putin's going to occupy the entire country. He says it here, and then he's going to go bankrupt because Putin cannot hold all of this land here after he occupies it, and that the Ukrainians basically will fight indefinitely here. That's not how it's going to happen. Putin does not want to take the entirety of Ukraine. He simply wants to install a puppet government, and he's not finishing the war immediately right now because at the moment, obviously, everybody in Ukraine will fight till the bitter end. So from a tactical perspective, the best thing he can do is still install a puppet government, take over the eastern Luhansk and Donetsk areas, as well as make the new Ukrainian government recognize the Crimean part. But very, very big but, everybody. In order to make sure that there's no resistance to whatever puppet government that he's going to install in Ukraine after he destroys the Ukrainian army, is exactly what I just said. He will destroy the Ukrainian army. He will destroy the Ukrainian defenses. And after, whoever is left is going to go to prison. Once you destroy the leadership of a country, and even in this case, he's likely going to destroy as many as the supporters of the Ukrainian government as he possibly can, there's nothing anyone can do, because no country from the Western European countries, no country from NATO is going to help Ukraine, because Russia is a nuclearly armed nation and they are more than willing to use nukes. Well, Putin is willing to use nukes to make sure he doesn't get ousted. And that's what the West knows, and that's why Ukraine is in a very messed up situation. The best outcome right now would really be peace out as it is. Give Donetsk areas, Luhansk areas, and Crimea, take a hit from that perspective, but retain your independence. Just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Who the fuck knows? It's just my opinion. He might not succeed in making Ukraine a puppet, in which case he will try to peace out now, take the lands, so it's not seen as a loss, because he's not going to be able to stay in this war for too much longer from an economical perspective.
Can't access their financial reserves. Their ability to move money is made much more difficult. People aren't letting their trade vessels into ports.
New efforts by U.S. law enforcement to make Russian oligarchs feel the pain of Putin's war.
I mean, this is effectively what sanctions do. So the oligarchs are now like, dude, Putin, WTF? And they put pressure on him to stop this madness.
Very amazing terms. Yo, dude, WTF, yo.
Russia is a great nation, full of beautiful culture, geography, history, and people. The vast majority of those people don't want imperial-style expansion and war. They want to live their lives, to prosper, to connect. And yet, the warped, delusional worldview of one greedy man has cut off their ability to do that. How is that possible? But I feel pretty certain when I say that Putin really doesn't have a path to the victory that he set out to achieve last week, when he sent people and weapons across his border to attack his neighbors.
I fully, completely disagree with you, Johnny. Putin's path to victory is pretty much assured. Putin is willing to fight until the fucking bitter end. He started a war, and he knows, based off of the fact that half of his fucking country is in rioting right now, and half the country is going to continue to riot, he knows that if he loses the war in Ukraine, he's going to get deposed in Russia, and it's not going to be the people, because it's never the people that depose dictators. It's going to be his oligarchs, because they're going to want to put him in front so they don't get fucked as well. And he knows that he has to win in Ukraine, and he will do everything in his power, and he does have a lot of power, sadly, so I get what Johnny here is doing. He's not getting his information from the right people. He's not getting his information from political analysts. I haven't seen any proper political analyst on the news for the past few days. No political discourses from qualified people. When you don't get your information from qualified people, it's not going to be really great information that you're going to give us either. You had 7 fucking ads, and you still going to give us a sponsor as well, man? NordVPN. Oh, he got a lot of money from NordVPN. He probably got like $100,000 from NordVPN to do this. Damn, son. You made money with this video, didn't you, Johnny? Boy, this guy made at least $100,000 from this video. Fuck me, and here am I making crappy reaction content.